The Old Man, Chapter 9. The line was beginning to have quite the cue. Of course, night was falling over Cedar Falls. What better time was there to experience a scary ride than after dark? The evening was rather warm. The waning summer and waxing autumn still battled over how the days would feel one way or another. "I want ice cream," Winifred whined. "I thought you wanted to go on this ride," Charlie accused. "I do. I'm just saying that I want ice cream. Let's get one after we finish this. It's just too hot." Charlie gave a tug of the collar of his shirt. "I guess it's a good idea. I honestly thought it would be cooler." He was suddenly tackled hard. He was unable to react, but Winifred let out a little scream. "Hey, if you can't handle that, you'll never make it through the haunted adventure," a familiar voice laughed. "Mike!" Charlie scolded. "Ugh! Where did skunk and cheese come from?" Winifred growled as she folded her arms. "Who invited you guys?" "Can it, Squirt?" James teased. "You're taking your sister on the haunted adventure?" Mike asked. "You really are testing her limits. Or is she protecting you?" "What are you talking about?" Charlie accused. "Well, with all that fuss earlier, I didn't expect to see you go on this ride." "You don't know anything," Charlie muttered. "You're not going to freak out again, are you?" James asked. However, his tone showed a bit more concern. "You kind of scared us earlier." "I just wasn't prepared," he insisted. "I'm ready now." "What about her?" Mike asked as he thumbed towards Winifred. "I'm not scared," she spat. "They're just people in costumes." "Well, we'll just see how well you do then, won't we?" Mike grinned. "Leave her alone," Charlie grumbled. All right," Mike replied as he held up his hands. "Sheesh, you're so stuffy today." "There's just been a lot on my mind, okay? Can we just enjoy the ride?" James and Mike looked at one another in confusion. They could only shrug. "Do you want us to sit with you?" James asked. Charlie then looked to Winifred. This was her idea, after all. He didn't have to say anything. She already knew what he wanted to ask. "I guess that would be fine," she agreed. "It might be more fun to have a group of friends, even if they are stupid, smelly boys." She gave a glance towards Charlie before turning up her nose. He smiled dully. Having Mike and James with them, there'd be safety in numbers. It wouldn't be as scary. Besides, Mike had already gone on the ride. He knew how it worked. "Sounds good to me," he agreed. The car rolled out and emptied. The riders had different reactions, some frightened and some giddy. Everyone reacted so differently to the experience. Needless to say, it was time for Charlie, Winifred, Mike, and James to refill the car and buckle themselves in. As the car rode through the doors and into the darkness, it resonated from the booming voice overhead. "Welcome to the bowels of hell." "Here we go," Mike practically giggled. Already it was uncomfortable. The track rattled beneath them. It was hot, even hotter than it was outside. Shadows and pre-recorded noises set the atmosphere. Skeletons rattled their bones, and torn-up actors reached out with tortured pleas as the red, orange, and yellow glimmer of lights flickered about. The ride sped up, whisking the group down what looked like a mine shaft, and clammy with such heavy humidity. It felt gross, especially having wet strands thrown at them from more actors. One could liken it to moss or kelp, though it tore easily, revealing it to be wet tissue paper of some sort. The group certainly reacted. Even Charlie and Winifred felt their nervousness begin to fade and turn into a fun adventure of scares. They caught themselves smiling and laughing. To be fair, Mike and James added quite the hilarious commentary. Once at the bottom of the drop, the car began to slow once more. The tracks were flanked by dark water. The sound of snarls and snaps and of screams echoed off the walls. Alligators floated in the swampy area, some far and some near. Despite being fake, the lightning and atmosphere certainly made them frightening. The slowness of this area made it even more of an experience. It felt as if there was no escape from the beasts. Just as things began to settle and the group became used to the surroundings, a mixture of bony and rotting hands began to reach up, and the water began to bubble. Gnarly! Mike shouted, as the others screamed and tried to get as close to the center of the car as possible. The fog began to thicken as they rounded the next bend. The track led them into a head of a giant dragon's mouth, the fog smoking from its nostrils. The next room was the innards, walls of painted meat and bones with fake treasures and bodies. Within moments, all went black. There was no telling where they were at this point. Once the lights came back on, the car was swished through the set of doors resembling the flaps of a big top. It was a hellish circus. There was a fake lion chewing on a fake body, while the other half called out from the floor, a little too obviously hidden in a hole. Actors dressed as mutant freaks shot out from either side. Fake tightrope walker teetered in one far corner, and then that laugh. "Here it comes!" Mike shouted as they rounded the next bend and came to the lair of Shackles the clown. He and the other demonic clowns shot seltzer at the car and popped balloons close to the riders. The ride sped up again and pushed them through a set of hospital doors. Within, the walls were bloody as the car zipped through a filthy hospital, unclear of its type. A regular hospital? A dentist? An asylum? There was a little of everything, with bloodied actors doing horrible things to the presumed dummies. The lights flickered on and off as they reached the end of that scene. An actor was strapped to a table and convulsed as the crazy-looking doctor pulled a lever to electrocute him. A haunted cemetery was next. Groans and thunder and screams played throughout. There were the ghosts and ghouls. There were hanged dummies on fake trees, and "It's him!" Charlie found himself screaming as they approached another fake tree with a fake crow in the branches. Beneath the tree was the man, the Reaper, the one that had been following them. Those magenta eyes cut through the fog. It felt as if the icy stare was cutting through Charlie. He could feel Winifred pressing against him, likely feeling quite similar. Mike let out a wild cheer. As fast as the siblings had been caught in that moment, they were distracted and looked about. In the next moment, Mr. Powers was gone, and they looked about frantically. "Where did he go?" Winifred cried out. The lights flickered to simulate lightning, and then the creepy Reaper jumped onto the front of the car. All four riders let out panicked screams, almost as loud as the ones projected from the speakers overhead. Another lightning flicker, and he was gone. "Where is he now?" Charlie screamed. Again, they frantically looked about as the car sped through the end of the cemetery. Then it stopped. The car just stopped.